Greetings and welcome to the latest edition of Caring About Seniors. I am your host, Adrienne Houghton. Now, as you know, I sit down with Oasis Senior Advisors Jacksonville and we discuss all things to do with senior living. Today, joining me in the studio from Oasis is Al Bagocious, and our guest is Betty Bennett from Rough Rubs. What does that have to do with seniors, we ask ourselves? Well, we're just about to find out. Welcome, Betty.
Thank you.
And good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, tell me what Rough Rubs is.
Well, Rough Rubs is a canine massage therapy business. And of course, with canine massage, we work mostly with older dogs, the ones that are maybe close to the end of their lives or have arthritis or different types of diseases. And we also work with younger animals as well, because the benefits that the dogs get are basically the same as the benefits as we get if we have a massage. So it relaxes them, it increases their blood flow, and it also helps their owners, because as we know, owners of animals almost take better care of their animals than they do of themselves. So when the animal is healthy, they feel more healthy.
Yeah. So tell me, have you always done this? Have you always worked with dogs?
No, actually I haven't. When I was a kid, I did want to be a veterinarian, but I sat in on a surgery when I was about 19 and decided, no, this is not for me. So I went into the education field, and I taught for 35 years before I retired from the University of North Florida in 2016. And once I retired, I decided that I still wanted to work, that I don't like just sitting at home. But that was my career before I got into Rough Rubs.
And did you come up with this idea of massaging dogs, or is it something that's been around for years that is not widely spoken about?
It's actually been around for quite some time, but I went out searching because I wanted to work with animals now that I had an opportunity to reinvent myself at age 57. So I started looking into some different areas that I could go into where I could work with my furry friends, and I found a school in Sarasota that taught massage therapy for animals. And so a friend of mine and I started taking classes down there and did our 400 hours of certification and started the business, and that's where it went.
How fantastic. Now, I'm sure, although the dogs find it beneficial, do you teach something to do for the owners of the dogs to help them? Do you show them how to work with them? Because it must be therapeutic for the owners as well as the
It is.
The dogs.
And I've been very interested. Their owners of animals are just so interested in their quality of life.
Yeah.
And so when I come out to do the initial consultation and I do the study of the animal and watch their gait analysis and those kind of things, I can offer information to the owner as to particular types of therapies that they can use, whether it be heat or cold, or showing them different types of techniques that they can use for the animals.
Yeah.
And that puts a little bit more back into their hands so that they feel like they actually have a part of improving the quality of life for their animals.
How did you get involved with Rough Rubs? Was it massage?
Yeah.
Betty and I met at a networking event, I believe in Clay County, several years ago. And I'm just enamored with that idea because, number one, people take better care of their dogs.
Yeah.
Seniors, that's their only lifeline. For many of them is their dog. And if you can make the dog happier, it's the best medicine for the senior. So I find what she does, and the reason why I wanted her here today is you can retire, but you don't have to expire.
Okay.
Oh, I like
Very
that
well
phrase.
said,
You
yes.
know, reinvent yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. I should be retired, but I love what I do. So why not keep doing it?
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Wonderful.
Right.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Do you find that with your business that it's difficult to market, to get your name out there, to let people know what services you have available?
Well, I think with that, the difficulty in it is explaining to people and helping them to understand that this is a legitimate business. I know when I first mentioned to my husband that this is what I wanted to do, he laughed at me because he said massage for dogs, and that's kind of the general impression that other people have of it. But just getting that word out there and having opportunities like this, which I appreciate, to let people know that it is something that's very vital to an animal's life. Mm-hmm. And even if I've got some clients I see once a week, I've got some that I see once a month, some for specific disabilities or diseases, and it's beneficial for all of them.
Sure. So what other services do Rough Rubs offer?
We also do pet sitting, and we can include the massage in with the pet sitting. And I also teach canine or pet CPR and first aid. For a company called Pet Emergency Education. I just finished teaching 65 people out at Canines for Warriors last week. So, and I love working with those people out there. They're just a shout out to those people. They're so passionate about what they do for dogs and for veterans.
Now, in front of you, you have a book.
Yes.
Tell me about this, because you wrote this book.
Yes, I did. When I was at UNF, I was kind of considered the expert on bullying there, and that was a passion that I had. My dissertation dealt with discipline and bullying and those kind of things, and we had some sad issues in my family that dealt with that as well. And so I wrote this about the time I was retiring, and my goal was to be able to continue my work with the schools and with the children, to get them to speak up if they're being bullied, to not hold it all inside, because that's where we come up with the dangerous situations that we have with students harming themselves or even committing suicide. Right. So I used this book to go out into elementary and middle schools and read it to the students as a way to start discussions, because it's about a little girl that gets bullied at school, and she comes home and she talks to her dog Millie. And it's encouraging them, no matter who they talk to, just to talk to somebody. And even just talking about it helps to internalize what's going on. And other people could hear them talking as well while she was talking to Millie.
Are you still going to the schools?
I have not. COVID kind of got in the way, but I would like to start getting back out in the schools. So I invite any teachers that would like me to come out just to get in touch with me and let me know. And I'd love to come out and talk to your students.
Absolutely. So we touched on it briefly, COVID. How did that affect your business?
I was able to stay in business, but I did lose some clients because they didn't, the idea that I don't have a brick and mortar shop. I actually go out to their homes where the dogs are more comfortable. So having someone coming into their home during COVID and bringing germs in and those kind of things. But since then, I have been able to build it back up. Of course, I lose a few, considering most of my animals are seniors to begin with. I lose a few through death, but I have been able to acquire more.
Yeah. And how have you found that this business enriches your life?
Oh my goodness. I absolutely love what I do. I've, as what Al said, reinventing myself. I wish I had found something like this earlier. Not that I begrudge being an educator, because I love that too, but just the joy that it brings to me to know that the animals that I'm helping are also helping their humans, and pet people are the best people in the whole world. They're just so kind and so nice, and Al seems to be like a pet person because he exhibits all of those characteristics.
And I'm sure the people that you come across, you're able to refer them to Betty.
Yes, and she hit upon a point that I'm a pet person, and I'm also a social media person, and put a plug in for my dog Teddy. He has his own Facebook page, and he has 206 active members.
Well, I'm sure that's more than a lot of people.
Oh yes, I've seen Teddy's fan page.
Just go to Teddy's fan page and you could sign up.
Oh, that's fantastic. That really is. So tell me, what's a typical day? I mean, there's probably not a typical day because each day changes. But what's a typical day for Bessie?
Well, if I'm massaging, generally on one of my most typical days would be a Friday, where I've got a couple of clients at 3 o'clock, a Chihuahua and both of them are Chihuahuas. One is bigger than the other one. And then after that, that's out over in downtown. And then I drive to Doctor's Inlet, and I have Raven, one of my favorites, Rottweiler. just a sweetie and a half. And then over to Middleburg, and then I've got Daisy, who's a little beagle. And
golly gee, so that's all over the place, literally. And the area that you cover is
Greater Jacksonville, St. Augustine, Clay County.
fantastic.
So I don't mind the drive because I get to work with the people, and like I said, I just absolutely love what I do.
Yeah, I think it's
people I work with.
yeah, I think it's super wonderful. So what advice would you give to someone who is thinking about retiring and is slightly nervous about perhaps giving up their regular normal routine?
I would say don't worry about it, that once you get into retirement, you can decide on whether you enjoy being just retired or whether you want to do something else, and it's a way where you can reinvent yourself and fulfill goals that you never thought you'd be able to do.
Yeah.
And it's just so rich, enriching, and you never want to lose the passion that you have for life. And when you feel like you're being able to do something that benefits others, whether it's dogs or people, do it.
And how do people find you? Because I know there's going to be people who are watching this and
I
they're
hope
saying,
so. I hope so.
I'd like the book. I'd like to have my dog have a rough rub. So how do they find you, Betty?
Well, we actually have a website. It's www.roughrubs.com. Very simple. I'm on Facebook. We have a Facebook page, and I'm on Yelp. And they can just Google Rough Rubs and find us.
And that's RUFF.
RUFF.
Yes.
RUBS.
Well, thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much for having
It's
me.
wonderful to find out, and I'm sure you're making a lot of dogs very happy.
Thank you. They make me very happy too.
Good. Thanks, Al. Thanks, Betty.
Yeah.
And don't forget, if you'd like to know any more information, you can find it on www.roughrubs.com or iwantabuzz.com. Bye for now.
We are local. We are your local experts in senior housing. We have taken the time to personally set foot in just about every licensed senior community in Northeast Florida. I think that sets us apart in that intimate personal knowledge of the communities in Northeast Florida.
Greetings and welcome to another edition of Caring About Seniors. I am your host, Adrienne Houghton. Each week, I sit down with Dave Stieglitz, who is the president of Oasis Senior Advisors Jacksonville, and we discuss all aspects of senior care. Today, we are delighted to invite Dr. David Free from Haven Hospice and Palliative Care into the studio, and he's the nurse lead practitioner. Welcome, David. Good to see you again, David.
Good to see you again.
We have the David Show today.
Yes.
So tell me, Haven Hospice, what is it?
Haven Hospice is a non-profit organization here in 18 counties in Northeast Florida, and we provide hospice and palliative care services, which I'm sure we'll discuss later. It is an organization that, in the hospice side, provides 24/7 care to people who may be in the last 6 months of life. So we've been in existence since 1979, which is a very proud and excellent history of care in our service area to the patients and families living with serious illness.
I mean, that's quite something. I mean, and you've got a huge area because Northeast Florida, I mean, that's a lot of taking care. So tell me, who is really eligible for hospice care?
Well, if we're going to specifically talk about our hospice services, they would generally be people who are, for the most part, in the last 6 months of life. People who, where perhaps care is no longer possible, I should say cure is no longer possible for their serious illness, or no longer desired. They've had enough. They've just decided they want to spend, their final days. Mm-hmm. But I think the problem with hospice is that most people access those services very, very late in the game. And they really could be for 6 months or longer, and providing support to that patient and to that family.
Yes. Now, you briefly touched on palliative care. tell us exactly what is palliative care, because it goes hand in hand with hospice care. But what is it? Because there's a lot of people that don't know what it is.
Yes.
So just back to hospice quickly. Hospice is a Medicare or an insurance benefit. And it can happen in homes, hospitals, facilities. In fact, a lot of people think that hospice care is actually in a facility when in fact 90% of the people we care for at Haven Hospice are in their home. Palliative care is similar in that it's dealing with people who are experiencing serious illness, but they may not be yet hospice appropriate. They may not be in the last 6 or several months of their life. They're probably still receiving curative therapy and want to receive curative therapy. So like hospice, we would be focusing on pain management, symptom management, quality of life, support to the family, and discussing healthcare goals. But they're just not in that specific insurance envelope or period of time when cure is no longer happening. So palliative care is when cure is happening. Hospice is when cure is no longer possible or no longer desired.
And David, I mean, you must come across people who are perhaps going into residential homes and also need hospice or palliative care.
Yes, hospice is just such a wonderful service. The people that provide it, their hearts are just, they're just huge. And the families are so appreciative when hospice comes in. And hospice can start in the home. If it gets too much to stay in the home, hospice can follow them to an assisted living, to a residential care home, to an adult family care home, to skilled nursing. Hospice can follow them where they go throughout that. But those folks are just, I'm just always amazed at the caregivers with hospice. Wonderful, wonderful people, and the services that they provide. So comforting and valuable to the families.
Yeah. Who makes up a hospice team?
So in hospice, we have a large interdisciplinary team. It might involve the CNA, who's really the bedside caregiver, who might be doing bathing or helping with sort of light household chores and work. There would be a nurse who would look in from time to time, who's checking in on the patient and looking for changes or need for physician, for example, or nurse practitioner intervention. That nurse would have access then to the nurse practitioner or the physician who would engage in pain and symptom management. It would involve a social worker, perhaps, if there were psychosocial issues, or perhaps need to have a discussion about an alternate place if home just became not possible. There are chaplains who are available to people of faith who choose to have chaplains. And so we have a large interdisciplinary team of people who support people on hospice.
As well as the bereavement counseling, which is a wonderful follow-up that many people don't know is available through hospice.
So tell me about the Bereavement Council. Is it prior to or is it after the passing of the loved one?
So that's a good question, because there is something called anticipatory grief, which is when people are anticipating a loss. And that is certainly helped by the hospice multidisciplinary team while we're providing care. But after one of our patients that we've cared for has passed on, we do, through our hospice, provide 13 months of bereavement support to their families. And so people can access that bereavement support virtually through support groups, sometimes telephonic support for bereavement. And interesting, one of the things I think that sets us apart at Haven is that anyone in our service area who's experienced a loss, regardless of whether their loved one was on Haven services, we will provide some bereavement support to them as well if they reach out to us.
Gosh, that's generous, actually, because you must have a lot of people that you're dealing with on a daily basis.
Well, we have about 600 people in our hospice program across the 18 counties of Northeast Florida, really from the Georgia border down to Chiefland, through Gainesville, all the way to Jacksonville Beach, and down to DeLand and over to Palatka. So it's a pretty large service area.
Yeah, that's a huge service.
And then in terms of the bereavement support, to your point, is we also have something called Camp Safe Haven, where we have children's camps throughout the year to support children and youth who've experienced a loss as well.
I was going to say, because it's not always seniors that are suffering or need hospice or palliative care. And so sometimes there are small children or even teenagers who perhaps won't speak or say what's bothering them. And so you actually help them too?
Absolutely. Certainly through our traditional bereavement services, we can help them. But we also have the camp where they can come together with other children who've experienced a loss. And sort of helps to normalize it for them by being with other children, and they realize they're not alone in their experience.
Yes, exactly. What other services do you offer?
So we have a number of other services that I'm very proud of. One of the things, there's a national program called We Honor Veterans, and there are 5 levels in that We Honor Veterans program. And proud to say we are a level 4 organization about to achieve level 5. And really, as someone who's served in the military myself, I think it's really important to acknowledge the service of people who have served, and also the special needs that they may have in terms of dealing with serious illness and their own, impending death, and the families of these individuals who have served. So we have special services to honor people who have served in the military. We have what we call the Haven Attic, which is a place where people can donate furniture, clothing, and other people can come in and buy those items. And the unique thing about the attic is what it does is it allows us to provide care to people who otherwise wouldn't be able to have that care because of insurance issues or such. So the attics allow us to provide additional care to people. So we always encourage people who have household items or things they'd like to donate. They don't necessarily have to make a donation of cash or a bequest to our hospice, but they can just donate some shoes or clothing or a lamp or something, and then we can sell those things and provide support to seniors and also younger people who need hospice services.
You also provide guidance in advanced directives. Talk about that a little bit and the importance of it.
Absolutely. We have a transitions program, but really it's about helping individuals establish advanced directives. I think one of the challenges in America is that only 30% of people over 65 have an advanced directive. An advanced directive really is just like making sure that your loved ones know what types of care you wouldn't want in certain circumstances. It really is a gift to a family to know what mom or dad or brother or sister might have wanted so that you're not guessing in a crisis moment. And so having those conversations is important. And we use a tool called Respecting Choices, but there are a number of tools out there, and I would invite the listeners to go to our website, which is beyourhaven.org, and access some of those materials. But really they can have someone come to their home or do a virtual visit and have discussions with individuals or families about setting their health care goals, which again, like I said, is a tremendous gift and I think very, very important. And where it becomes important is that what we see in the United States is that about 3/4 of Americans, when surveyed, say that they would like their final days and months to be in their home. But 75% of people are in facility and in hospitals. And so there's a disconnect because it's really the opposite of what people are saying they want. And setting advanced directives and having palliative care early and then hospice care when it's appropriate help enable people to achieve that goal as much as possible, and where possible to stay in their homes as long as possible.
Yes.
Circle back because you kind of brushed over it, but yeah, they can go download the forms and look at them, but I've seen those forms and you go through and they're difficult to fill out on your own. And you mentioned having people come and actually talk you through, what does this question mean? What does this option mean? I think is so very important because they're difficult forms to fill out for yourself.
Yeah. Well, they are, but they cover a number of important issues, to your point, and that is, for example, would you want CPR? Would you not want CPR? Or maybe, and in what circumstances? Would you want artificial hydration nutrition to keep you alive? Would you want to be on life support or a ventilator? Would you want dialysis? Yes, no, or maybe, and if maybe, for how long and in what circumstances? So it helps to really sort of navigate some of those things. A lot of people, would not want to be on life support for an extended period of time, but they haven't verbalized that, and so that becomes a challenge when that's initiated, is for the family to know when would my mom or dad want that to stop. So I think it does help people navigate some of the difficult questions, but also I think, again, talking about advanced directives, it's not like a last will and testament where you set it and it's sort of static and it remains. These things can change from day to day, people's goals and wishes. And that's why palliative care becomes so important, because the healthcare decisions that we might make, all of us at this table today, are different than the ones we might make 10 or 20 years from now when our health is completely different, or even if we had a sudden unexpected thing happen, those decisions would change again.
Yeah.
So it's important that palliative and hospice care revisit those discussions, and that's what we do.
Do volunteers play a large part in your organisation?
Absolutely. We have a large core of volunteers. I'm sure you can imagine that COVID has affected our ability to send people into the homes, and so that's been sort of put on hold, but we're just in the process now of sort of reinitiating the volunteer support. But our volunteers are crucial. They're the lifeblood of our organization, because we can't be everywhere all the time. Sometimes we need just a sitter to sit with someone.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we need someone to help somebody get to an appointment. Sometimes we just need someone to help somebody prepare a meal or something. And our volunteers are just so crucial.
David, we've covered a lot of different things, but do you have any last words that you'd like to say for the audience?
Sure. I think just a few things about services. I think one of the things that hospice also provides that people can avail themselves when someone's on hospice, whether they are in home or some other place, we have something called Respite, which is that if someone's caring for their loved one in the home, sometimes they just need a break. So Respite can be, for example, for up to 5 days. We have 5 care centers in the area. They're not care centers in that they provide residential care like in assisted living or something, but they're generally for people who are having an increase in symptoms that can't be managed in the home, or someone requires injectable medications that can't be given in the home because they can no longer swallow. But those are also places where people can go for respite for up to 5 days to be able to receive that support. And I think the only other thing I would share is that people understand the difference between palliative care and hospice. Again, to reiterate, that palliative care is for anyone living with serious illness who may have pain or symptom issues, wants to discuss goals, or needs psychosocial support at any stage or any age of illness. Whereas hospice is generally that last 6 months, and I would really encourage the listeners to avail themselves of hospice care at an earlier time point, because it really can help patients and families to achieve some of their goals and keep people at home.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for all you do, and thank you for coming on and perhaps making things a little clearer for the viewers.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're very welcome. And don't forget, if you'd like to know any more information about what was discussed today, you can find it at www.beyourhaven.org or iwannabuzz.com.
We are local. We are your local experts in senior housing. We have taken the time to personally set foot in just about every licensed senior community in Northeast Florida. I think that sets us apart in that intimate personal knowledge of the communities in Northeast Florida.